Welcome to WO50 Women Over 50 Embody Wisdom and Wellness.
Hello, everybody. My name is Corrine, and I'm here with my BFF of many years, Eddi. The title of our talk today is What's in a Label? How Putting Things in a Box Can Stifle, Diminish, and Limit.
Yes. And
so many
she
things.
picked on me too. She picked on me. She
Just
called me out on a label, just a little label, and it fell away. I could feel it peeling off the back of my shirt.
Yes, indeed.
Was fun.
We did. We had a great time, and we talked about labels we put on each other, on ourselves, on people as groups, and how some labels are good, like the label for safety, but for the most part, they're not so good. So
yeah. And just how important it is with when people retire from careers and the label, and we just talked and discussed a lot of things around that. It was
a lot of good stuff.
Conversation,
as always.
Good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're so smart.
You are too. Mm-hmm. That's not a label. Hello.
Hi, Eddi.
How's my BFF all the way in Nashville?
I'm very good. I was talking to one of my new clients today, and she's only heard probably one of our podcasts because she's new, and she's also getting ready for a retreat, and she's had to do all this homework, so I haven't been able to give her any homework. So she just listened to one. It was an old one. I think I had her listen to the hormone one, which is way back a year and a half ago. And it was when you were a little more stiff. She goes, she seems like really quiet and subdued. And
yeah.
I said, well, no. she's very funny.
No,
she goes, it's not that you're loud or anything. She's like, you've got lots of life in you. And Eddi's just like very calm. I said, well, I said, I think you listened to a really old one, because I said she's much more comfortable now, and her personality is still is coming out a lot more and more and more as we talk. Not that you're perfectly charming all the time, no matter, even if you're
subdued. Yeah, but you know what? It's funny because you always say I'm funny, and I know I'm funny because wit is a good thing. Yeah. And in my office today, I had one of my patients. She was in stitches. She was laughing so hard. And she said, I listen to you guys, and I love it, and I just love it. But sometimes like the way you are in your office, I mean, you're so funny. I said, yeah, but I can be funny. Like, I can say things to you and you're finding it funny. But you know what? We're in a lot of places now, and I can't say a lot of things that you find funny. So
that is not true. Did she say that's not true?
Yeah.
So
anyway, maybe one of the funnies will slip in at the moment it's appropriate. You know?
I feel like they are starting to, because subdued is not a word that I've ever used for you.
No.
And you are very funny and very witty. And what I love, I mean, there's so many things. I do get you going though. Like when you see something has tickled me.
Yeah.
And I think you're like that way with anybody. Then you kind of just keep going on a roll.
If I know people are laughing, then I'm going to keep going. Like now I know what the sense of humor is like, but we've been friends so long.
Yeah.
I know I'm going to make you laugh. Like I'm going to say something and it could be out of the blue, but yeah. And like today too, another patient said, she loves listening in, and she said, I found out from a friend of mine you were doing a podcast. You know, I haven't seen you in years. And she goes, I loved it. I'm listening. And I even started to grow my own SCOBY. You know, your friend Corinne encouraged me to grow it. And she said, but I'm heartbroken. It died, but I'm going to try again.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. Fermenting is hard, and can be. That's why I've figured out some different things that work. Like I think maybe she had listened to one of the podcasts where I was doing kefir, because I said I had tried doing kombucha before and I had some success, but and kefir I did not have success in. And what I really got a lot of success in this past summer, but it's also because it's really warm here, is the ginger bug. I feel like that's the easiest thing to start with, but it's also the warmer the place is, the easier it is, because fermenting really needs warmth. And you can ferment in the winter and you can ferment in a cold climate. It just takes longer.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I'm glad she tried it. And that's the whole thing of fermenting and canning, like anything, gardening. I mean, anything in really life, especially if you're learning from scratch, no matter how much somebody's teaching you, you're still failure. Remember what Sachi used to say? He used to say all cooking started as a mistake.
That's right. That's right.
Because a recipe had to
Or,
fail before.
that reminds me, Bob Ross, I used to watch him painting. Remember
Yeah,
his pretty
yes,
little
yes, yes.
trees, his pretty little
Yes.
trees.
You
And he
used
said,
to watch.
there I did, because I was like, I know those skills. That's a
Oh
nice,
my
pretty tree. And
gosh.
he goes, there is no failures in painting. There's just a happy mistake.
That's right.
It's just a little happy mistake. So yeah, it's cute.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And so I think that we can also learn from the mistakes of labeling,
Yeah. Oh, we're going to segue right into it. Look at
right?
that. Hmm.
So so I think that I got my first lesson because the topic today is what's in a label. How putting things in a box can stifle, diminish, and limit.
Hmm.
And we're going to talk about today everything from people to your job to like to a cereal box, like everything.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and some of them are necessary. Some labels are necessary, and but a lot of them aren't. Like if it's a safety issue or a product and you want to know if you have an allergy to something, right? I mean, there's
that's what a label is actually for,
yeah, not on people.
right?
Hmm.
Because if you think about it, I first got this lesson years ago. I think I was probably in my 20s when I think I was reading something and it said, when you call a whole group of people like gay people and you lump a bunch of people in there and they don't have a personality or face, it's just a group. You
Hmm.
don't have a personal connection to them. So you're putting them in a box. They're not people, they don't have feelings. And I feel like that's what happens with people who are prejudiced still, or which we all have some prejudice in us at some level, but I'm talking like overt prejudice, or yeah, even prejudice against gay people, for instance, right? With
Hmm.
all the different numbers now, we have all the
Hmm.
trans, all of that, right? But even when you call a whole group of people that there's no connection, then that you dehumanizes them, and then you don't have compassion and empathy for that group. So
Yeah.
it can be helpful to know because I think, you know, transgender, all the different labels that they do like their label, that they like
Hmm.
to know what their specific label is.
Hmm.
But as a group of people, it can't, like if you're not, like I said, if you don't have a connection to the person, it
Yeah.
diminishes their humanity, I guess is what it is. And I've seen
Yeah.
my brother, for instance. I've seen
Hmm.
our brothers are very similar.
Hmm.
They both make a lot of money and they both are challenging humans. They're both
Hmm.
awesome. We love our
Hmm.
brothers,
Hmm.
but they're different than we are, very different than Eddi and I are. And so, my brother, for instance, used to have quite a prejudice against overweight people because he's a super fit person. He works out 3 hours a day in the gym. Well, then all of a sudden, I find that he's like mentoring people in the gym and he has much more compassion now for people that are trying really hard but are having a hard
Hmm.
time, but at least they're showing up. Like he has so much. And so they're not just an unhealthy person anymore. It's that he's now having a connection
Yeah.
and he's less prejudiced now
Yeah.
against.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
a lot of times we can, work on our own labels, that we've put on ourselves from jobs to descriptions to, we've all, I talked about this today with another patient about she's getting ready to retire. And she goes, who am I then? And I'm like, yeah, I said, there's the falling away of the teacher or, whatever the job description is. And then what do you want to do? And that's the beautiful mystery of just allowing, right? When we did a podcast about that, planning and allowing, but
Mm-hmm.
we often, you know, um, lose sight of the depth of who we truly are. We try and keep defining ourselves, and that just, I don't know, it feels hard. It feels like solid, right? And
Mm-hmm.
we're trying to be more fluid with it. Like you just said,
Mm-hmm.
even the labeling of trans or queer or gay or whatever the words, LGBTQ, like I'm still learning the language
Mm-hmm.
around it,
Mm-hmm. I think we all are,
because
yeah.
yeah, and it's changing and pronouns are changing and um identifications but we have to be careful we're not putting ourselves in a box, that we're
Mm-hmm.
not diminishing ourselves, that we're not trivializing even
Or
that
putting
stifling, right? All
Yeah.
those words.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you do. If you say, I'm not a good cook, I've never been a good cook, I'm not a good cook, like that's a limitation. That's you're putting yourself in a box,
Hmm.
labeling yourself as not a good cook. And it's like, well, do you want to learn how to cook? Do you want to do that? If you don't want to, that's fine. But
Yeah.
if but a lot of times, what have I done that to before? I think that you called me out on one thing that I said before. Like I know I never was good at math, you
Mm.
know and I might say, oh, numbers, and I see my niece doing that a little bit because she's super creative, but
Hmm.
she's creating a jewelry business, and she's going to have an Etsy store soon. Paisley is.
Excellent.
um
Yay.
but her brother is a super finance guy, and so he said, have you done a spreadsheet of your expenses yet, and how much your costs are? And she's like, looks at a deer in the headlights, and she's like, no. So I
Yeah.
totally get that, because it took years for me, even for my retreats. My friend Carolyn, who I've interviewed before, she's a lawyer, and so I was living with her for a while in California, and she's like, "So, do you know what your costs are?" And I said, "Yeah, I know like about what they are. Like I kind of keep track." And she goes, "Well, do you have a spreadsheet?" And I was like, "I have no idea how to make a spreadsheet. This is like over 20 years ago." So she
Yeah.
created an Excel spreadsheet, and it had all the expenses. And then I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a freaking miracle!" And I think I still use her her equations to this day. And I'm so excited to share that with Paisley when she comes to Nashville, and her brother and her are both coming to Nashville in January. And I'm excited to share that with her, so that she doesn't have the box of, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at accounting, I'm just creative, like I had
Hmm.
for so many years.
Yeah.
Now I try to embrace all the different parts.
Yeah. And we all have different highlights. I always think all of us, with all the characteristics, our personalities, our traits, the way we've grown up, what we've exposed ourselves to. It's almost like you take a highlighter to the things you're really good at and you kind of highlight it, and you don't have to. Why do we feel we have to be good at that? Why do we feel like we
Yeah.
did a podcast about success and that it's the money and the labeling of how much money you make and that makes you successful. And
Well,
then
that's different for different people, though.
it is, yeah,
And the
it's different.
amount is different.
Totally, right? So it's like we can't we can't just say blanket statement, this is the way it is for everybody.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
that
Or
it's we
us.
can't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we've,
even
and
our
our,
own, yeah,
yeah.
even our own way of labeling, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead. What were
Yeah.
you just going to say? Because that was good. I
Yeah,
cut you
I
off.
don't
Yes.
I don't know. It's okay. Um yeah, so with our I know what you probably caught me out on before is I always say I'm not athletic and I don't like working out. So I've changed that years ago. I'm like, I do enjoy hiking.
Hmm.
I do enjoy actually working out with weights with a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Like I have little caveats. I don't enjoy, I'm a fair weather hiker. I know that. Like I like it has to be between, it's Fahrenheit degrees. It has to
Hmm.
be like
Yeah.
above 45 and
Yeah.
below 85 and not raining.
Yeah. You got yourself boxed in the perfect little box of.
It's true. Because if it's not, if it's about, and when I go to Vancouver, if I'm not willing, especially in the winter, to hike when it's raining, then I ain't going on any hikes to work off the,
Well,
the sweets.
well, right now we're breaking records up here for a month of rain, drizzle, and fog, and
Yeah, but
it's
that's on the East
challenging
Coast.
on the East Coast of Newfoundland, and it's challenging,
Yeah.
and it's real easy to box yourself in but you got to put the gear on and put the raincoat on and your boots and just go for it. Get
Yep.
out in it. Like it's, yeah,
And
we
get a
we
light
do.
box.
Yep, get a light box, right, and box that in. Like get
Hmm.
that out and running. But to sit back and just grab that knowledge to say, "Oh, this sucks. I'm just not going out anywhere. I'm just not doing anything." It is always like this, and it's easy to do it. It's easy to do that.
It is so easy to put limitations. I don't know why. It's like negativity has more of a gravitational pull than positivity. For even
Hmm.
positive people, it can, because you're
Yeah.
a very positive person.
Hmm.
And I'm not quite sure why that is. I guess humans, it's like when we using absolutes. So it could be labels can be like using absolutes too. Like I've never done that before. Like,
Hmm.
really? Are you sure? Or I'm never going to do that again. Or I always do it this way. And as part of its habit. But when you
Yeah.
really start paying attention, that does box you in. It can be limiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so really looking at our language and our labels and our boxes and, trying to, so you use a label when it's helpful for danger or for ingredients that you need it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, yeah, labels aren't for people.
No, but there's personal labels, right? That's the thing. That's
Yeah.
why, this person's skinny, this one's lean, this one's fat, this one's in shape, this one's in, we start,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, we have all kinds of labels on everything, but
Mm-hmm.
it's recognizing when we're really boxing ourselves in or we're doing it to somebody else. That's so important that we catch ourselves. It's like, even when you say, like, I said this today, this is coming into my head, where um, one of the gals said, I'd love to go to chef, like learn to be a chef. I said, sure, that's what you could do. You could go to chef school, right? I said, I've always wanted to go to chef school, but I love to cook. I said, I'm so fortunate I haven't chopped my fingers off because I don't know how to cut that celery, like, that real fast way. That'd be so fun to learn. But I'm like, I don't want to go to chef school to learn that. Like, maybe someone will teach me, but, you know, I'm willing to learn.
Yeah, I love that's why I have Masterclass. Like they have that kind of thing on Masterclass, masterclass.com. It's like, I don't know,
Yeah.
$150 a year or something. And they have all these amazing classes and they have these chefs. And one of them teaches knife skills and what kind of
Hmm.
knives to use for what. And then another one teaches, the tools in the kitchen and what tools are for what. Another one teaches like what is blanching, what is a hollandaise or béarnaise, difference between
Mm,
all that. And I love watching those things to learn. So that's kind of
yeah,
like being in chef school a little bit.
it is. It's funny because I think about you. Corinne's really good with chopping stuff, and we were making this little salad that she has a recipe for, the Greek salad, remember?
Oh
And she
yeah.
goes, you have to chop them into this size pieces, like exactly, like 300 million of them have to be this one size,
Yes.
right? No, and I'm exaggerating a little
But
bit,
it's
but
you're almost there, yeah.
yeah, but I took a little knife because I like working with a little knife, and her knives are sharp. And she's like, you're still on the cucumbers? I'm going, do you want to do it?
Because the big knives is it was so cute to watch. Because
So
on
fast,
one
right?
hand,
But
it's like
yeah,
I want to give people the freedom in the kitchen because, of course, I'm very grateful for the help. But on the
yes.
other hand, it's like, well, if I just have this tool,
Yeah,
it would work much better. But you know what
yeah,
works for you.
I
That's the
do.
thing
And
is you wouldn't know how to
yes.
use the big knife.
Well, I do use the big knife, but I don't like using the big knife.
Yeah.
Even in my own kitchen, I like my little knife for
Yeah.
everything. It's really wild, like everything. Yeah. So, maybe I'll change. I'll step outside the box and yeah, get into stretch myself a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I posted this thing today that kind of reminds me of the direction we're going. So I highly recommend, Eddie, I don't think you've had a chance to listen to this yet. I sent you a podcast, Tetragrammeton with Rick Rubin, and he was
No.
interviewing the Irish poet David Whyte. And David Whyte
Oh.
is just an amazing, amazing poet. And there's two episodes. The first episode is over 2 hours long. The second one's an hour and a half long. And the whole thing is poetry. Like, Sarah that we interviewed, Sarah McLean, I sent it to
Mhm.
her. And an hour later, she goes, oh my gosh, I just started listening and my life has already changed. It's
Oh,
so,
wow.
so beautiful. I'll put a link to it.
Wow.
So this is
Okay.
something he was talking
Cool.
about that was his mother's philosophy. His mother sounded amazing. So she said, he was like, how do you have compassion for just like because she said she had compassion for everybody, his mother did, like understand. And she said, when you understand somebody's story and the root of their pain, you have compassion and unconditional love for them. Act as if you know the root of everyone's pain
Mm.
because you do. We all know the root of everyone's pain. It's separation is really what it is. It's the pain of
Mhm.
separation.
Yeah.
So that's what we do when we label things is we diminish them out of this expansive, amazing human. Oh, they're a bigot or they're egotistical or they're a narcissist. These are all
Mhm.
labels too that can be helpful if you're in a situation especially if you're, in an unhealthy situation with partner or a friend, they're narcissistic. That can be helpful, but that's not the only thing that they are.
Yeah. And
You know?
we are a society that loves labels.
Yeah.
Like you just there's introvert and extrovert and ambivert and empath and now we even have spectrum labels, right? Now we have
Yeah.
ADHD and we have
Neurodiversity.
neurodiversity. And I'm like, wow, there's so much to wrap our brain around, but
Mhm.
why can't we just accept it and just be fluid and just be in the present moment? And why do we have to call ourselves something
Yeah.
or label ourselves with something, you
Yeah,
know?
what does that do when it's like it causes more separation?
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's an opinion about it, right? Because, then if you're, oh, you're so sensitive, right?
Yeah.
I've heard that a lot. Or, oh, you're
Hmm.
really defensive. Heard
Hmm.
that a lot.
Hmm.
And then you go, oh, am I? Hopefully we can reflect on it, but most of the time we might get a little more defensive.
Well,
But
that's usually your defensive if it's not healed.
that's
So,
right.
right. So that's the thing. So if somebody calls you defensive and you don't, and it doesn't have and you don't have a button to it, you're not
Yep.
defensive. But if
No,
somebody calls you defensive and you are defensive, like that means you actually are defensive. It's
you're
like
so
you can tell.
defensive. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Yes, you are. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah.
really? That's an interesting point of view. That the language around it all, which we talk about all the time, the
Mm-hmm.
softening in ourselves and in our language around things that we can.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what was it? One of my gals said today. She's working on present moment stuff. And it
Mm-hmm.
was beautiful because she doesn't even realize that this is shifting in her. And she's in her late 50s. And she said, I went to yoga and I came out and I got a call and I could feel myself getting all worked up again. And I wasn't going to take the call, but I took it. And then I wanted to run back in the yoga class and just lay back down again and reset. And I said, that's beautiful. I said, so did you just sit in the car and just think of where you just left and how beautiful that felt that you could feel it again? And she goes, I did. I said, yeah, that's present moment. That's like, you don't have to go back to the studio and go in and lay down on the mat, but you can go back there in within yourself and feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking the pause, taking the
Taking the
pause.
pause.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought of a label you have for yourself that's a little limiting.
What's that?
You're
Oh
welcome
boy.
to point one out to
Oh
me
boy,
too, but I
here we
just thought of
go.
one because this is one that I do think limits you. Your
Oh,
middle child syndrome.
oh, that one. I'm getting better about that.
Yeah. Well,
I
of
used to
course
hold
you
on
are.
to
Of
that.
course you are.
Oh yeah, and you'd hear so much of it, or it's almost like someone says, "Oh yeah, look there, she's got that and he's got that," and well, of course they do. I'm the middle child, right? And you read different books about it, right? And now it's like, huh, is it really true? Is it really true? Yeah, it's
Used to be very true for you and it affected your
absolutely.
outlook on everything. And
Yeah,
then I don't know if I started because I'm a middle child too. And I'm like, Eddie, but I'm a middle child and I don't see it that way
yeah,
at
yeah.
all.
You're the middle child of three. I'm the middle child of
I
five.
don't think it matters, Ed. We
No,
are
it's
come
still
from very different families,
very different
very
families.
different, but
It
same
doesn't
some
matter.
similarities.
But you know what? Again, there's the label, right? The oldest child and the baby
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
attention the parents. I always
yeah.
say, of us five kids, every one of us have a different view of our parents
Yes.
because our parents were different
Yeah.
with each one of us at different ages, right?
Well,
So, I
and
mean,
plus you're a different person.
absolutely,
And how
absolutely.
we take the information is very different, each one of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that label of middle child thing is actually dissolving day to day to day to day.
Yeah.
It really is. When's the last time you heard me say that? Well,
Actually,
was it
not too
last
long
week?
ago. Yeah. But it was a very minor thing. It was a very minor thing and
Yeah.
didn't last too
It's
long at
habit.
all. So,
It's habit, right? It becomes
yeah.
habit. It's
Yeah, see
conditioning
that's
and then it gets pointed out
yeah.
and then it's like, "Oh, okay.
Is
Let's
that even who I am anymore or how I look at it? No, I don't think so. That was just like came out of my mouth. Don't even know why it came out of my mouth, you know?
Yeah, that's
And
fun.
it is fun because that happens to a lot of things as we,
Yeah.
as the labels and boxes start to fall away.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
certainly, I'm sure I have many, and just not thinking of them in the moment, but I'm sure I have many.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing's coming into my head right now. I mean, you've done a lot of work around a lot, as we both have, but I
Well, it's
love
been
the
my
idea of,
passion. It's been
yeah.
my passion. Your passion has been medicine and natural stuff, and you've helped me a lot, and I've gotten better at that. I can help people. Of course, I send people consult you, but I can help people with the basics. And same with you.
Hmm.
It's like I've had done this spiritual stuff and this self inquiry for a very, very long time, and it's newer to you, but you now have your own space in it and love it and
Oh,
can
yeah.
share it with others and deepen it yourself.
Absolutely.
And it's
I,
just,
I
yeah.
wrote down when we decided to do the thing about labeling, I wrote down, and this is the perfect time to say it, our existence is multifaceted. And when you said spiritual, spiritual is one piece of it, cultural, social, psychological, biological.
Mm,
It's so multifaceted.
mm-hmm.
And when we're moving through like our lives, it's so beautiful that we have this friendship that we can actually point those things out and go, huh, yeah, that is kind of a label, isn't it? I never sat back and went, that's a label I have on myself. Really, I've never sat back and done that till now, where you're going, you tend to do that a bit. But anyway, there it is. We're moving them through. Bring on
Yeah.
another one. Give me another
Yeah, well,
one.
no, another label we both like. Even just, I was laughing at myself saying that your lane is more naturopath medicine and my lane's more spiritual, and that is slightly putting labels on it. And those are helpful labels because the thing is we don't hold fast to those. That's the thing.
Yeah.
The labels of careers, like I think I've mentioned in one podcast before, but this is just so awesome to me to experience this within my being. So I worked with Deepak Chopra for many years and loved it, loved him. He was my first teacher. But for a good, I want to say 10, maybe even 15 years after I was working with him, certainly during while I was working with him, but after, it was like a calling card for me.
Mm-hmm.
It made, I got noticed when I mentioned it, and
Mm-hmm.
people, their ears were, and I felt a
Mm-hmm.
little sense of pride, almost like it was an attachment to my identity for a long time, and I
Mm-hmm.
and I noticed it and I didn't like it, but I would do it and I couldn't stop myself from doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
And then now, years later, like I don't even remember the last time I was like, yeah, he was one of my teachers,
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you
It
know
was it was more like ego connected, an
yeah, no, it was the
identification.
identification. Yeah.
Yeah, identification to self and worthiness, right? It makes us
Yeah.
seem more
Yeah.
like to have these connections. It makes us more. So this labeling, it's just wild. It's wild when people start retiring and dropping their titles, right? And what they were CEO, they were financial planner, they were whatever it is, nurse, doctor, but I'm still playing pickleball, right? We're all still having fun. We're all, nobody's asking, so what do you do?
Hmm.
Everyone's retired. I said to someone today, so you're retired. So have you retired your old story? And they
Nice.
were like, huh, I never thought about it. I said, well, it's your old story. It's your history. It's what you did. So don't drag that around too much. You're creating new story. You're living in the moment. You're re-identifying. Even another person, one of the gals I had mentioned earlier, she talked about aging. By the time we were done, she goes, I'm just turning 60 and I'm fighting aging. I said, but why are you fighting something that's inevitable? It's inevitable. It's happening in real time right now.
Hmm.
So we can do things to slow the aging process. We can eat well. We can, you know, change our thinking about it. This is what our podcast is all about. We're trying to change the narrative on aging. Well, sure, that's even a label that you don't want to age. You want to be youthful. You want to be beautiful forever. Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Freeze yourself in time.
That's what Botox does. Freezes your eyes in time anyway.
Well, it does that, and then it relaxes, like it. There's no movement, but again, I have no judgment around what people choose to do.
No. Yeah.
It's not something I want to do. I can say that today, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what my thinking patterns are going to be next week or next year. I might, but I find as I'm getting older, there's more and more acceptance just because of what I tell myself, that aging is a privilege and we're talking about this and this really helps, and I think this is why when we share things like the course we're going to do to kind of dig deep so we don't stay with like a box with the label on the top of the box. We
Elderly
really
person.
Yeah. Like there's such joy in becoming that person, that elder that used to be celebrated years ago. So we get ourselves out of that box, out of that thinking, out of the the expectations and all that, and we start going, I'm more than the label on the box. What am I? What's inside the box?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation, Ed. I think it's an important conversation to be aware of the things that we box in, that we limit just by calling them something, categorizing it.
And then we believe it.
Yeah.
Like even middle child thing or older child or baby or they're spoiled or and we start believing it until we don't, until we go, that doesn't serve any purpose. This doesn't help growth.
Yeah.
This is stifling. Yeah. This is movement. I want movement.
Yeah. And love and expansion and understanding and connection. Because when
authenticity.
Because when you put something in a box, it like creates limitations, which creates like a separation. And so you're even literally, your language is disconnecting you from connecting with it,
Yeah. 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 It's smothering.
Yeah.
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 So,
ooh, yeah, that's good. I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one. So,
so don't be labeling yourself or others. Just be in the love.
Just be.
Oh, authentic. Yeah, I heard one. Yes, be authentic. I heard, I sent you another podcast. Sorry, I was like, sorry, I'm sending you so much today. It was on Tim Ferriss's podcast. He was interviewing Jon Batiste, musician. And he had these mantras, these beautiful mantras. I want to do this on a retreat sometime. I think I'm going to do it on the January 5th retreat we got here at Ivy House, the 1-day one. And it's like, just even in case you're listening right now, just think about how it feels and when I say, be still and know that I am God. How does that feel? Be still and know that I am God. And then be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know that. Be still and know. Be still. Be.
Beautiful.
So you're just taking away the extra and just noticing the difference when you start simplifying and how all that feels. Yeah.
The connection. There is, no separation. So don't box yourself in. Yeah. Be. It's beautiful.
Be. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
And you're beautiful.
And you're beautiful, but that's a label.
But I mean, be beautiful. Be beautiful from the inside out. Beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. Love you bunches. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. We enjoyed. That's a label. WO50.
It's a name.
It's so you can
Which
find
is also
us.
a label, so you can find us. So that's when it's a good label. WO50.
Yeah. Some labels are good sometimes, but not on people.
Remember when we first started doing the podcast? I said, Eddi and I'd say, bye, everyone. And she'd say, bye. And I'd say, bye. And I said, just notice, you don't have to say the last word. Notice your tendency to want to say. So we're kind of doing that right now. So,
That's funny. Or we'd end with different words. Okay, be happy. Be.
So I forgot about that. Love y'all. Love you, Ed.
Love you all. Bye.